Hello and welcome to the Black Rose Garden. In 3.24 Necropolis League, the Betrayal mechanic is getting changed quite a bit. I've been doing the Betrayal mechanic for League Start for as long as I can remember. I've always really liked the consistency of being able to sell Ashling and Hill crafts for guaranteed money. In this video, I want to go over the changes to Betrayal and how I would set up my Betrayal board. So the good news is that the consistency of making money from Betrayal hasn't really changed at all. It's actually made a lot easier by turning the Ashling craft into an item. This means that you don't have to interact with the Forbidden Trove Discord at all to make profit from Betrayal, whereas before you really did. And there's no more of the sitting around waiting for someone to buy your Ashling craft off Discord, where you had to just sit in the Katarina boss room and you weren't able to run other maps, otherwise you would lose the Ashling craft. So the second good news is that Betrayal is still the main mechanic for target farming Scarabs, even though you can also do it now just by running maps with the correct Atlas passives. I'm pretty sure you'll still get more Scarabs by doing Betrayal compared to the Atlas passives, at least in the early game. So let's go over the changes. The first major change is it's a lot easier to get Jun on every map now. You can pretty easily get 100% chance to spawn Jun through these little nodes, and that there's one notable on the Atlas passive. You just take this cluster, and then here, and you'll get to 100% chance to spawn Jun in every map. Before you could do it, but you would have to buy sextants, and that was annoying, and it would cost a couple chaos per map. Whereas now it's just easy and it's free. The second change, and the most important of course, is that the Ashling craft is getting moved to a reward for killing Katarina. What this means is that your syndicate board and where you put the people in what safe house matters less. And it's a lot more important now to just rush Katarina, because that will be your most consistent way to profit from Betrayal. But you still want to at least try to get the correct people into the correct safe houses to maximize your rewards. So this graphic shows my predictions for which members will be profitable in which safe house. Not too much has changed. You basically want everyone to be in intervention in order to get Scarabs, and Ashling got a lot worse, obviously. The green ones are the ones that I think will be most profitable, and the yellow ones are going to be the ones that I predict will be decently profitable. The gray will be a little tiny bit of profit, like maybe a couple of chaos, and then the red will be literally no profit at all. And basically it all comes down to which Scarabs are going to be the most expensive. So that makes it pretty easy. You can just check PoE Ninja throughout the league and look at the Scarab prices and just try to set up your syndicate board so that you can get the most profitable Scarabs. Because you can only fit like 5 people in intervention, that means anyone who makes profit outside of intervention, you should put them there instead. So for example, even though Varisi gives you Harvest Scarabs and Delirium Scarabs, you should always try to put them in research, just as before, so that you can put someone else in intervention. And then Hillock, you can put them in transportation, again, to open up another slot in intervention. The only rewards other than Scarab that will be slightly profitable are Orbs of Unmakings. These are usually like 1 chaos each, 1 to 2 chaos, so you'll maybe make like 10 chaos from this. Expedition currencies, Danig and Tugin, rerolls are always worth a couple of chaos. And then Tora's good old gem XP, you can give it to a level 19 gem and it'll almost take it all the way up to 20, or you can give it to a Enhance, Enlighten, or Empower gem. So the last thing I want to do is really quickly go over the Scarabs and explain why I think each one is either really profitable or not so profitable. First, we have Reliquary Scarabs. I mean, these are almost always pretty popular, and it depends on how good the Nameless Seer is. This is basically an NPC that gives you a shop with valuable uniques. So if the Nameless Seer gives a lot of tier 1 or even tier 0 uniques, then these Scarabs are going to be really expensive. Sulfite is always not that popular. They moved the enraged monsters from strongboxes to sulfite, but this is pretty bait because it's really easy to increase the number of strongboxes in a map, but it's impossible to increase the number of sulfite veins. So you're not going to have that many monsters that are enraged for this. Divination is absolutely insane, and this should very easily be the most expensive Scarab that you can get. So if there's one thing you want to do, it's to put Gravicus in Intervention. It's probably the single most important member. And then Torment is a mechanic that a lot of people are going to do, but the Scarabs are actually really bad because the Gilded and Polished ones are not really useful for how most people will interact with Torment, which is to let the player be possessed. Anarchy is almost always pretty bad and unpopular, so these are going to be worth really little. Ritual is getting a huge buff this patch with Omens as a reward, but I honestly don't think these Scarabs themselves are that insane compared to some other ones. Speaking of, Harvest is one of the really insane ones, such as getting tier 4 seeds is pretty crazy, along with the duplicating a life force, which was a pretty expensive sextant to get beforehand. The bestiary ones are pretty decent, so I think it'll be like a middle of the pack. Influencing ones are, the lower tier ones are pretty bad, but the winged Scarab is really insane because the Guardian and Conquer maps are always worth money, as well as the Synthesis maps. For Harbinger, there's always a pretty popular mechanic, and I think combining these Scarabs are pretty insane too. The Abyss Scarabs are decent, but Abyss is usually only popular when it's combined with other League mechanics that take advantage of the increased rare mobs. But otherwise, the Abyss Scarabs would be like the middle of the pack in terms of profitability. Essence got a pretty big nerf this patch, but this Wing Scarab is pretty insane. It'll give you like, I don't know, 15 essences on a map, and you can make each of those essences even better with the Alice passive tree. Domination, also known as the Shrine Scarabs, I find are pretty interesting. They're not super insane, but having more unique bosses has some synergies, as well as a lot of experience, because this 30% gets buffed by Shrine effect as well. Incursion, I think, is pretty weak. I think it'll be pretty rare and difficult to take advantage of this Wing Scarab, which has a chance of giving you additional profitable temples. Betrayal, we're not going to talk about because I'm pretty sure you can't get Betrayal Scarabs from Betrayal itself. The Blight Scarabs are absolutely insane, especially the one that gives Blight Ravage maps, so I think this will be super profitable. Breach is also always pretty popular, and now you can force a Breach Lord, and you can also force Shayula, so that's pretty insane. These should definitely be pretty profitable. The Cartography Scarabs are okay. I can see combining these with other strategies, maybe farming Guardian maps, but other than specific strategies, most people won't be using them. Now Ambush is also really nerfed because they lost Enraged Strongboxes, but it's still a pretty good way to farm Divination cards, and everyone loves to farm Divination cards, so I think these will still be decently profitable. Expedition is always one of the most popular mechanics, so the Expedition Scarabs will definitely be worth something, especially the one that gives Danig, the best one to get. Legion, the Wing Scarab is really insane, and the other ones are decent, but Legion is usually pretty popular, which will increase the price. Beyond, I feel like, is pretty bad. My experience with Beyond is it's not that rewarding to begin with, unless you're just using it for juice for some other mechanic. So I think it'll be like, at best, mid-tier in terms of profitability. Ultimatum has these two winged ones, which you can combine together offers catalysts, and then the catalysts turn into inscribed ultimatums instead. That's pretty insane. But Ultimatum was pretty bad last league, so we'll have to see how good Ultimatum is this league. Delirium is also always pretty popular, and getting guaranteed Delhi orb maps, pretty good. The rest of these you can't really target farm in Betrayal, so I'm not going to go over them. These are just my predictions for how profitable each type of Scarab will be. But again, you can always check PoE Ninja's prices for accurate numbers during the league. And with that, I wish everyone the best of luck in their league start.